Wendi Adelson's motive was not the relocation. It was 100% Donna and Charlie Adelson's motive, but it was not her. I just watched the interview that Dan Markel's lawyer just gave. He said something that made me go and redo the order of events. Her motivation was more selfish. So you guys remember Tamara Demko's statement to the police where she said that Dan told her that he had a bomb that his lawyer was going to drop on Wendi. It had to do with her misrepresenting assets, hiding assets. I don't think anyone's talking about how serious that actually was. It was so serious, and I'll get into it in a second, that Dan's lawyer in this interview says that he had a conversation with Dan and said, I feel like I owe it to your children before I blow up her career to go and give her an opportunity to just do the right thing. And he said that he believed that the bomb that he had, the proof, the smoking gun that he had against her, that proved that she committed fraud and she defrauded the court, was so strong that there was no way that she could bob and weave around it, okay? If she were to lie now and say that she didn't commit fraud, then she'd just be committing another act of fraud, right? So he said that it was so strong that he absolutely did not want to go to another lawyer's office, like hat in hand, and like, because he thinks that it's a sign of weakness, because that's how strong his situation was, that his proof was. So he did not want to go to this lawyer's office, and he did, okay? He goes to her lawyer's office. Well, hold on.
To admit that you committed fraud. And if she denies it, she'll just be guilty of committing a second act of fraud. And that was kind of my strategy with him. But I told him, I said, look, man, if I file this, even if she zigs or zags, it doesn't really matter at that point. Because one way or the other, she's going to be on the hook for fraud. And it could have real dire consequences on her ability to practice law and to work, and on your children. And if we have to do it, we have to do it. But I really feel like I owe it to your children to at least go try to talk to her lawyer.
And he does. He goes and talks to the lawyer. And he says, look, this is the situation. You need to talk to your client because I'm going to do this. And, it'll be followed by a bar complaint. I don't know how seriously she took it, and I don't know if the bar was going to do anything about it. But I can tell you this. As an attorney who practices law in the state of Florida, I can tell you that you could get arrested and retain your bar license, right? You'll have to jump through some hoops, but you'll be able to retain your bar license depending on the crime. If you commit an act of moral turpitude, that's a different story. If you steal money from a client, that's a different story. If you defraud the court, that's a different story. And they're making allegations that she didn't steal money from a client, but she is accused of hiding money. So she's got like moral issues around money, and she had no problem defrauding the court, lying in a sworn affidavit. And not only that, he was also alleging that her lawyer knew or should have known when they submitted the affidavits that they were false. And that's why the lawyer had to withdraw. Now, when Dan's lawyer went to her lawyer, her new lawyer, and said all of this, he said, I will give you, and by the way, this was on June 24th. He said, I will give you until July 18th, the day of the murder. If I don't hear anything from you guys by July 18th, I'm gonna have to file something. I'm giving you guys an opportunity to just do the right thing. And on July 18th, he was dead. The relocation issue was settled a year earlier, in June of 2013, or maybe July, a year earlier. It was her family who wanted her to move to Florida, to South Florida. She was looking into buying a house in Tallahassee. She was dating a guy in Tallahassee. She didn't like it, but she was there. Katie Magbanua says that the first time that Charlie mentioned anything to her about, like, can you get a hitman, was 3 months after the relocation issue was settled. So October of 2013. Then nothing else until June of 2014. This one, knowing she had defrauded the court, couldn't leave good enough alone, And she, in May of 2014, all right, so a month before this now, or 2 weeks before, in May of 2014, she files a motion for contempt because he hasn't paid a $120,000 lump sum that he was supposed to pay. And his response to that was, I shouldn't have to pay it because you were hiding money and you fucking know it. And hey, not only that, while we're at it, you're also violating the MSA because you're not giving me the right of first refusal and you're getting your mom up here to watch the kids instead of giving them to me. Mom's talking shit about me to the kids. And then on May 5th, he supplements his response by getting real specific. And he says it's $200,000 in assets that she hid knowingly, and her attorney helped. And he asked for sanctions against both of them. 2 days later, on May 7th, 2014, her lawyer files an emergency motion to adjourn the proceedings and sets a motion to withdraw on May 15th. It is 2 weeks after that, in June of 2014, that Katie says Charlie is talking to her again about a hitman. Is that a coincidence? I don't know, but I do know that the first attempt that was made on Dan Markel's life was on June 21st. And I also know, based on what Dan's lawyer said in that interview, that he knew that her and Dan were still talking, if you know what I mean. And he kept telling him, you guys have to stop it because I'm really afraid that she's going to make an accusation against you. She's going to say that you hit her, you punched her, you kicked her. She's afraid of you. She's going to file a restraining order so that she can get the leverage. For anyone who doesn't know, it's very common in family court. There'll be a contentious dispute happening and then someone files a restraining order so that they can get leverage. And he was very afraid that she was going to do that. And so he was telling her to stop, or he was telling him to stop talking to her, stop seeing her. And I know that that talking and seeing was happening in that time before the 21st. And it hits a peak because on the 24th is when the lawyer had that conversation with her new lawyer saying, listen, I'm giving you guys a chance. Do something. Do the right thing. Deadline, July 18th. It's June 24th. That weekend is when she went down to Miami for 15 days. She was in Miami from June 24th to July 13th. Again, murder, July 18th. July 11th, 2 days before she came back down, is when her mother made that Geek Squad appointment. June 13th, the day she returned, is the day that she saw Jeff Lacasse and told him in that conversation, a year ago, can I tell you in confidence, a year ago, my brother was seriously looking into a hitman. Because by July 13th, she knows that this is done, this is happening. And while I still believe that she tried to frame Jeff for it, I think she was hedging her bets and also framing her brother right up front. And we know that that happened because as soon as she was talking to the police, my brother, my mom, my parents, immediately. She was begrudgingly dealing with the fact that there was a final order with prejudice entered on the relocation issue. It was a done deal. She was looking at houses. But because she's belligerent, she had the audacity to file a motion for contempt because he didn't pay $120,000 lump sum. And we know she didn't need that money to buy the house because someone testified that she had the money to buy the house. She hated Dan, the whole family hated Dan. She was just gonna try to make his life miserable at every turn. So she wakes the beast. She wants her 120, even though she knows that she hid assets. She knows that she defrauded the court. And because her livelihood was going to be on the line, suddenly, hey, were you guys serious about getting a hitman? I'd be willing to bet that she didn't say that it was anything to do with the money or the contempt or the fact that her lawyer had to withdraw or the pending or the potential for a bar complaint. I really want to come down and be with my family, you guys. It's just getting to be too much, you guys. Do you really think we could do it, you guys? She didn't tell them. It was because she didn't want to be the law professor at FSU who was going to be held in contempt of court for lying to the judge. She didn't want to be the law professor that had a bar complaint pending against her for hiding money and lying to the court. I think that Georgia has a strong case for puppet master. She played on her brother and family's motivation. She played the damsel in distress, her own selfish, separate goals. She was willing to sacrifice Dan and her family so that she could save face. Jeff Lacasse said that entire family has like a gene missing. The empathy gene is missing. They do not feel for other people. And I think she was the final boss of that.